Hey, y'all, welcome back to Andrea Speaks TV. I'm your host, Andrea, back to bring you news and commentary you can use. Listen, I hope you're doing well. I hope your family is doing well. As promised, I'm back to give you another update on what seems to be a growing migrant crisis here in our country. So much so, that in the previous video that I did on this particular topic, I can tell that for many of you, if not most of you, this is a growing concern. I had a chance to read in the comments where some of you all were saying, I know one lady was sharing how her and her family were preparing to move out of New York City because of all this going on with the migrant crisis. Some of you all were able to speak firsthand your experience and everything. And so I can tell, from your comments that this is a concern, okay? So much so that in this particular update on the migrant crisis, I want to talk about two very concerning situations. I want to get your thoughts and feedback on it. So please make sure that you watch this video in its entirety and leave me a comment or comments and let me know your thoughts, okay? Listen, y'all. Now, I told you, as far as the migrant crisis, right? I've covered cities such as Chicago. I've talked about New York City, okay? Well, I want you to know, as we have discussed before, right? As the people, okay, migrants, I also see in the article that I'm going to be referring to, they're also called asylum seekers, okay? So you may hear those terms used interchangeably, right? And what I want you to know is, I'm sorry, I feel like something is getting in my eye. Okay, what I want you to know is, as the men, women, and children, as they cross the border, for example, from, like, let's say Mexico into Texas or other states, other border states, those states, for whatever reason, right, they are using their resources to ship the migrants or asylum seekers via bus, via plane to other cities, okay, known as sanctuary cities, such as Chicago, such as New York City. And they're being told that the migrant families, they're being told they're going to Chicago or going to New York City. But in fact, y'all, is turning out, and I'm about to talk about this, they're actually being sent to suburban areas, okay? So the information I'm about to share with you, I want you to know what's going on. I want you to think about, could this be coming to your own community, okay? And I'm going to talk about what communities are doing to try to get ahead of this and prevent this from happening, or maybe to be given advance notice as much as possible, okay? Listen to this, y'all. So in this particular article, buses, okay, my sources say that buses are dropping off asylum seekers in suburbs after Chicago has tightened their rules for bus arrivals. Now listen to this, y'all, okay? Dozens of migrants, I'm going to get into the details. Dozens of migrants were left abandoned at a gas station in Kankakee by a bus driver who told them that they had arrived in Chicago. That's according to the Kankakee County Sheriff's Office. All right, let me give y'all some details on this. Very concerning now. According to my sources, asylum seekers who were destined for Chicago were recently dropped off at a far-flung suburban location with no warning. Think about that, y'all. They didn't even get a heads up. Even the residents in that community, okay, did not get a heads up that this was about to happen. They were about to get a busload of migrants dropped off in their community, okay? Imagine that and think about your own community, right? So the asylum seekers were destined for Chicago. The asylum seekers who were destined for Chicago were recently dropped off at far-flung suburban locations with no warning, in what they're calling an apparent effort to circumvent drop-off policies implemented by Mayor Brandon Johnson. Okay, I recently spoke about him. He's the mayor of Chicago, Illinois. Listen, y'all, in one instance, they're saying that 38 migrants were left at the metro station in the small Kane County community of Elburn on Thursday, this past Thursday. The migrants had been given prepaid one-way tickets to take the train to Chicago. Meanwhile, okay, in the village of Manhattan, a bus showed up at the metro station on the same day. After learning there were no more Chicago-bound trains scheduled for the night, They went to another station in Joliet. Okay. However, it was, I guess what happened in Kankakee that took law enforcement by surprise. So y'all, the law enforcement, okay, according to my sources, the law enforcement, they had no heads up, they had no knowledge, okay? So they say that this was even going to take place, okay? The sheriff, okay, Sheriff Mike Downey said the migrants were wrapped in blankets. Listen to this, y'all. Now, I know different people may have different opinions for whatever reason about how they feel about the migrants coming here, but at the end of the day, y'all, okay, I'm still saying that I'm not telling you how to think, but you got to also realize, okay, these people are still human at the end of the day. As a matter of fact, I actually spoke about this in one of my previous videos where I talked about the migrant crisis. And I said, you know, it's almost kind of, it makes me question, okay, well, who gets to make the decision to just put them on a bus, right? They're still people at the end of the day. They're still human. Who gets to make the decision to put these people, however they came, right, to put them on a bus and just to send them wherever they want them to be? Think about that, y'all, okay? I'm not trying to tell you how to feel or change your opinion about anything. I'm just asking you to consider another viewpoint, okay? But you're still entitled to your own opinion. So the Sheriff Mike Downey, okay, in this particular Kankakee County Sheriff's Office, said that migrants were wrapped in blankets. They were walking on highways and expressways, okay? Expressways, that could have been dangerous, right? You got people walking on major highways. People are driving. That's dangerous, you know, for them. Walking on highways, expressways, after the driver, okay, the driver of this particular bus, and from my understanding, these bus drivers are, I believe, contracted through the state to pick up these migrant families and send them, you know, drop them off at different areas, okay? So the migrants were wrapped in blankets, walking on highways and expressways after the driver dropped them off at a Love's Travel Stop, okay? That's like one of those, you know, gas stations you see off the interstate at 4:30 a.m., y'all, okay? Without food. So they were dropped off without food, money, or adequate clothing. Okay, so basically, from what I get from that, you know, these people are in survival mode. Okay. The sheriff said this, and I quote, "So that was a little bit disturbing on our end that they would be deceitful like that." Okay. And I'm assuming that he's meaning the bus company would be deceitful. The bus company or the state, right? The state, wherever they're coming from. That they would just drop them off there with no prior warning, no heads up, so that they could prepare as well. Okay, now the Kankakee mayor, Christopher W. Curtis, told NBC Chicago in an email that the bus dropped off 30 to 40 individuals from Venezuela. Curtis, the mayor, also explained that the city doesn't have the housing, the resources, or financial dollars available to handle busloads of arrivals, especially with no warning. Okay. He also said, and I quote, "In the end, we have a duty to protect all of our residents and visitors in our city, and we will," he said. "However, our first duty and oath as elected officials is to help and protect our residents first." Okay. So the mayor, okay, is saying that, hey, we're going to protect, and this is what I want you all to think about, y'all. This mayor is saying, hey, we have a duty first. Our first duty and oath as elected officials is to help and protect our residents first. And that is what we will do. Okay, so he's saying, hey, by bringing in, think about this, y'all, by bringing in all the migrants, wherever they're coming from, and just dropping them off unannounced and leaving and not saying anything, you know, that's also, that could possibly be putting the residents in these communities. Okay, think about your own community. If you're just, you know, living your normal life and all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're looking down the road, right? And it's just a group of people walking wrapped in blankets, and they just show up unannounced. Like I said, these people, I could imagine, okay? Think about basic needs, y'all. Food, clothing, shelter. If they don't have those things, these people are pretty much in survival mode, okay? I'm not saying that they're going to commit certain acts, but they're going to do what they feel like they need to do to get food, to get water, shelter, things like that, okay? That's why we need to, and I've said this before, we need to think about and pay attention to what's happening in our own local community, okay? If you're in an area where, especially if you're in a metropolitan area, definitely an area that would be considered a sanctuary city. These are things, very real things, okay, that you want to think about and find out what your own local community is doing. It may even take showing up to city council meetings, voicing your opinion, joining in with other groups who are, advocating for policies to be put into place to curb some of what's happening, y'all, okay? Please make sure you like this video, share this video. I want to invite you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and please make sure you comment your thoughts, okay? This is a very serious topic, a very growing and alarming story that's happening in the United States, and it has the potential to affect us all, okay? Now, let's talk about, let me read this, and then I want to talk about what cities are doing to try to get ahead and stop this as much as possible, okay? Law enforcement are investigating to determine who sent the bus and who the driver was, okay? Authorities also filed an emergency declaration with the state for costs incurred. So in other words, these local cities are saying, hey, we need the state to compensate us for all of this occurring, okay? Meanwhile, in a suburban city known as Aurora, on Friday, the city council passed an ordinance that calls for drivers and bus companies to notify the appropriate agency at least 5 days prior to a bus's arrival. Those who do not comply, according to my sources, could be subjected to fines of up to $1,000 per passenger. Okay, so they're holding the buses accountable, okay, and in some cases, possibly even the state should be held accountable for sending them, okay? Let me know your thoughts on that, y'all. Now, in mid-November, the city of Chicago announced similar steps to regulate, and I quote, rogue buses, which officials said, and I quote, cause unnecessary logistical obstacles for intake and put the lives of new arrivals in danger. Bus companies could be cited and fined for disregarding curfews, landing zone locations, and loading, unloading protocols, okay? Now, let me know your thoughts on this, y'all. Now, listen. The second story, okay? Now, picture in your mind, right? I've already said that, and I've already read reports where migrants are being dropped off unannounced in these communities. The elected officials, the law enforcement in these communities are not prepared. They haven't been given advance notice, a heads up. They're saying they don't have the resources. They don't have the housing. They don't have the financial resources to accommodate these groups of people who are coming. And so what are the residents in these areas supposed to do? Okay, could you imagine if a group of these migrants or families come knocking on your door asking for help? Well, in this next story that I want to share with you concerning the migrant crisis, one group of residents in Brooklyn, New York, hey, they're saying, you know what, we're not going to wait on the elected officials to tell us what needs to be done. They're taking matters into their own hands, okay? So I want to talk about a group of Brooklyn residents, okay, who are actually organizing clothing drives for Floyd Bennett Field migrants, okay? So I want to take you now to New York, okay? Some Brooklyn residents, okay, according to my sources, aren't waiting for desperate migrants to knock on their doors looking for help. Dozens of volunteers and local churches have been organizing donation drives, bringing clothes, toys, books, and blankets to the massive shelter at Floyd Bennett Field, okay? On Saturday, my sources say a band of roughly 15 volunteers set up tables and blankets across the street where they unloaded more than 100 bags full of items to hand out to migrants in need. Okay, so in other words, they're saying, you know what, we're not going to sit around. It seems like they're saying, hey, we're not going to wait on them to come to us. They're saying, hey, we're going to go ahead and just set up so that they can come get the things they need. Hopefully, maybe they were also saying they won't too much bother them after that. But it sounds like they're trying to get ahead of it because maybe they know that, as Mayor Eric Adams has already made known, and some of you all said this in my previous video, how he had encouraged the New York City residents to, go and maybe protest, make their issues and concerns known to our leadership in Washington. Okay. Now, some people, may say that, it's a good thing that they're doing. Obviously, it takes their time, their resources. Okay. Some people may even say, you know what? They're doing all this for the migrants, but what about the homeless residents, maybe even homeless veterans in this particular area of Brooklyn? Why are they not doing that for them instead of doing it for the migrants? Okay, that can be debated. You can let me know your thoughts on that as well. Here's a quote from one resident of Flatbush who had this to say, and I quote, we're here just trying to help as best we can. Adding that 11 members of his group also dropped off 8 carloads worth of items last Saturday. Okay. Now, one person, it says, who came to the Big Apple from Ecuador and was staying at the tent shelter with his wife was thrilled. Okay. So they're referencing a migrant who was there with his wife, who was thrilled to receive coats for his 9-year-old daughter and 6-year-old son. Okay, a pair of teenage girls even squealed, the article says, in delight after discovering short skirts and tank tops in the piles of donated goods. Okay, one teenage girl was quoted as saying, "It's really nice they're here. We appreciate it." Okay, no, I'm sorry, that was the gentleman. Okay, who came with his wife, who received coats for his 9-year-old girl and 6-year-old son. He was quoted as also saying, "It's really nice they're here. We appreciate it." Okay. Other efforts to aid migrants staying at the shelter have included an emergency clothing collection by the Church of St. Thomas Aquinas in Flatlands and 10 other Catholic parishes. Okay. Here's a quote by the pastor at St. Thomas who said, and I quote, "The situation is when you have 15 families show up at the doorstep and they have shorts on and nothing else in this type of weather." Okay. He says that it calls for help, adding they provided clothing for 150 families, y'all, this week. All right. The outpouring of aid, the article concludes, has come amid concerns from residents in nearby Marine Park, where migrants have been going door to door, y'all, and begging for help. Okay. So I want you to think about your own local community. Do you know right now if this particular topic, the migrant crisis, especially if you're in a metropolitan area, if you're near a city that's considered a sanctuary city, or if not, do you know if your local city council, your city government, your elected officials are even discussing this topic and making decisions on this topic? Okay, you may want to do your research. Also, think about if something like this, a lot of this is out of our control, y'all, right? Think about if this were to come to your local community. Are you prepared for this? What do you think you would need to do in order to prepare? Okay, remember, I said that, and I'm just, thinking logically, right? These people, if they're coming with nothing, okay, meaning they don't have food, clothing, all they have is just the clothes they have on, they may not have good quality shoes to fit the type, or they may not have good quality shoes or clothing to fit the type of weather in a particular area. They're in survival mode, y'all. Okay, they're trying to survive. Who knows what measures? I'm not trying to scare you, right? I'm just talking, but who knows what measures they would go through in order to survive? Okay, those are things that I want you to think about so that you can, create a plan to prepare, protect yourself, your family, your loved ones. Listen, y'all, this is a very real situation. It may be one that people may or may not want to talk about, but I believe it's very real. Okay, are you prepared for migrants to come knocking on your door, begging for help? Would you answer the door? Would you even open the door? Okay, I want to hear from you. Listen, thank you so much for supporting the channel. Again, if you're a first-time viewer, welcome. I want to say thank you so much to my long-time supporters. I appreciate, and new supporters. I appreciate each and every one of you all. Please subscribe if you have not joined our community. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. How do you feel about buses just dropping off migrants, telling them, hey, you're in Chicago, but you're actually in a suburb area, maybe miles and miles away? And then how do you feel about the residents? Should they have to get a head start and coordinate their own clothing drives and things like that to assist families? Or should this be on the state or federal government to do that? Okay. Thank you so much, y'all. Listen, I'll be back in the next video. I appreciate each and every one of you all. Like this video, share this video. A lot of people have no idea that this is going on for whatever reason, but I think it's something that we all need to know, okay? Take care. I'll see y'all in the next video right here on Andrea Speaks TV.